This is Madam Speaker. Thank you very much for joining us. Tonight we ask, is the ANC firm on sex scandals and those accused? And does it have the institutional template to respond convincingly and consistently when it happens? Martin Pelders, let me put the first question from our jury, even though it's a shortened jury this evening, to you. There's no doubt in your mind that as soon as scandal hits, the accused person should step aside.
Absolutely. I think for the protection of the victim and the perpetrator. And let's face it, we still have law in this country that says you're innocent until proven guilty. So I think we need to kind of get into a situation where we separate those people because they work in close proximity to one another and step down. It's not a suspension. It's not let's investigate this whole thing and sort it out. And once we've come to a final resolution, then we can bring the parties together, either proceed with a legal course of action or an internal course of action. But to me, the funniest thing is that in this particular situation, you have an internal panel that's investigating these things. These guys have absolutely no expertise. You know, it's like putting the guard to watch the dog to guard the food. I mean, it's just ridiculous. They don't know what they're doing. They don't know what they're talking about. Whose side they're going to take? They're going to naturally take the offender's side or the alleged offender's side. And I just think that in these situations, especially the lady really didn't get a good deal at all. It was just a totally ridiculous, farcical, totally farcical.
All right, so to use your word then, Mbuyiseni Botha, would you say that the systems, or lack thereof inside the ANC, are tantamount to being farcical when it comes to real serious claims around sexual misconduct?
Well, I wouldn't put it this way. What I would say, Iman, is that, I mean, it's sending very dangerous messages that, look, we're not taking this process serious, or even the rape itself. I mean, are they saying that, look, this is not a matter that we take seriously? And that, for me, is, and they are a leading party in the country. And as a leading party, is that they should be an embodiment, because an embodiment of the laws that are passed, because they, in fact, are part of the, I mean, they've been in the forefront. They were leading in terms of the various laws we have in our country. So when you are seen, and perceptions are very important, when you are seen not to be acting, I mean, or not walking the talk, that becomes a problem.
So what would be the first step then? If, as you say, there is, there's a lack of an institutional kind of, set response to issues like this, which can be incredibly damaging, as I said at the beginning, not only for the alleged victim, but also for the party itself. How do they begin to put that into place? What do they have? And you've looked at their history. You've looked at other scandals that they've had to deal with in the past of this nature. Where does the work begin?
Well, I think it's going to be very critical. I mean, the sexual harassment policy is going to be critical. That not only you have the policy, developing the policy, but also to train the members so that they understand that it's not only even the letter, but the spirit what is contained in the sexual harassment policy. But like, look, Iman, you have said this. My disappointment is that we're talking of an organization that is 107 years old. So you're not talking about 25 years, and that's important. So I think for me a starting point and very urgent is that the development of the sexual harassment policy. But it should not stop there, because more often than not, sexual harassment policies, they sit there and gather dust, or you tick a box that, look, we've developed this, we have it in place. Now you need to, in fact, be seen to say that, look, the Luthuli House or all other members of the organization would actually be trained and understanding is that this is how you're supposed to behave. Here, these are the values that, that are driving this organization.
Well, let's talk about, had Thabang Ndidika been here, and my producer pre-interviewed him, in which he said that inside the ANC there are women who are being victimized. You spoke about the proximity to power of those who are working in one or other capacity inside the ANC, could be administrative or otherwise. That kind of makes it more difficult to be able to stand up and point a finger. What is your sense of the institutional culture inside the ANC? Have you heard stories like this? That we were meant to hear from the ANC Youth League chairperson?
Well, indeed, I think that the transmission of the patriarchal mentality, as Mbuyiseni correctly points out, is not something that is recent. It has become a culture to the extent that the familiarity between victim and perpetrator is no longer clarified. So, you
alleged victim, right?
Yeah. The alleged victim and the alleged perpetrator. So it's difficult. It's like the Ben 10 versus the Blesser mentality in society. How do you clarify the two? Because the reality is that you are faced with a situation where power absorbs the strength of an individual who may be finding themselves subjected to that power. And have we addressed that sufficiently? So I don't believe that it's something that is recent. I think it's an entrenched nature. It's now becoming a surprise to society. My concern is the timing. Why is it that when it comes to elections, these things are starting to surface?
Well, I mean,
and when you look
of course, timing is something that I think was invoked by Zizi Kodwa in the realm, in the context of, is this basically part of a, political ploy?
Yes.
As a person who works in gender-based violence, women specifically, the timing issue is neither here nor there. A victim speaks, alleged victim speaks when they choose to speak.
I agree, and that's why there should be no prescription.
Stand by, Lisa.
No, that's why you need to be able to do a good investigation. You shouldn't allow yourself to be clouded by what else is going on, but you should be sitting down and looking at, this is the situation, let me go ahead, let me do my investigation. So that if there are other things that come into play later on during your investigation, you will unearth them. But your focus is not on are there or aren't there conspiracies. It's, here is a complaint, how do I gather my evidence and put this together?
Yes.
Martin, you wanted to come in?
No, we need to be really careful on this sort of point, is that we get in really close to the realm of victim blaming. And this is why a lot of victims don't stand up and talk out. We need to be careful. And what Lisa said is 100% correct. We focus on the case at hand. We forget about the elections, forget about it. A victim has come forward and she's had the courage. Believe you me, it's not easy to step up and say, this man sexually molested me or this man raped me or something, especially at that level, because you are open to tremendous public scrutiny. So for these ladies to step up and actually speak out is, number one, commendable. Okay, and number two, incredibly difficult. I mean, this is a decision that I doubt they took lightly, and there is no amount of money or influence or anything that I think can justify the fact that they're going to stand up and they're going to. I mean, look at what happened to Kwezi. I mean, the exposure that she went through when she came out and said that she was raped by Mr. Zuma. I mean, it is not an easy thing for victims to do in this country. We need to be really careful that we don't get into this realm of victim blaming.
Luisila, you wanted to come in really quick?
Well, I just wanted to say that it's important that when we remain, my fear is that we can't leave this to the public, the court of public opinion.
Yes.
It's very important that this principle we maintain, that you are innocent until proven guilty. But also the suspension or stepping aside is also commendable, because then it sends a message that, look, I want to give this process a due process. I want to respect. I want to act. This process must be dignified. I fear that we must not get into a place where you leave things to attrition, you leave things to a court of public opinion. That's very dangerous.
Absolutely. My issue is not the fault. My issue is the prescription in terms of sexual offences. The law provides for 90 days for a victim to report, even to test or to request the test of an HIV on the individual who has perpetrated against them. Now, that is my issue in terms of timing. If we look at what has transpired in the US, for example...
You're talking about whether you have the prospects of a prosecutable case.
Not only the prospects of a prosecutable case, but what about the health and safety of the victim? Now, the victims are coming forward and saying, yes, this is what has happened to me, but where are the charges on the one instance in terms of the former spokesperson of the ANC? Then you have the incident of one who says, I am within the employment environment, I'm taking the matter to the CCMA. But why are the victims not properly informed in terms of their sexual rights or their sexual harassment rights in terms of policy around, can I then get my perpetrator tested? Because I stand a risk not only of the prescription time. The major issue that circulated on the issue of Zizi was the fact that, okay, it's now been how many years that has lapsed?
April last year.
Precisely.
Okay.
Why is there prescription on sexual offences? A person might have to internalize their own individual pain, humiliation and abuse before they have the courage to step forward.
Take a breath from me, Lisa. I know you want to come back in, and I'll take your comments in just a second. I get final thoughts from my guests. This is Madam Speaker.